Well, I'll start talking about Leo. So July 2019 is when Leo started. We started as basically a decentralized seeking alpha. That was the whole idea behind it. And the original goal was to basically democratize access and knowledge to finance. So that goal kind of changed over time, and now what you see is a blue screen. But you also see the Everything app on Hive. And the idea behind that is to be basically Twitter on the blockchain. And the reason for that is that we can monetize attention. And I'll get into that a lot. But you know, one thing that Web2 did a great job of is bringing people in and using them and using the user-generated content to create a lot of value. Obviously, that value kind of flowed into the pockets of, you know, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world. But with Web3, you know, we're able to tokenize and bring that value back to the users. So Leo's gone through a lot of iterations. So we started as Steam Leo back in July 2019. Little fun tidbit for you guys. So that was the first iteration of Leo. Like I said, the idea was a decentralized seeking alpha. And you know, we airdropped to actually the PAL token holders, which was airdropped to the Hive ecosystem. So that's how we started. And then in March, obviously, we, you know, Hive was born, and Leo Finance was our rebrand. So, you know, sticking in line with that mission of decentralizing finance and democratizing access to it. So that's where, you know, Leo Finance came. And then Project Blank. So you guys probably heard a lot about Project Blank for, you know, maybe 2 years. So it took us 2 years to build what is now Project Blank, which we call the Everything app. And a rebrand is coming soon, where we're going to take it to a more broad audience. So that's where we're at. And there's 6 core features. And the new rebrand, so we talked previously about democratizing access to finance. Now it's a digital oasis. So it's about bringing all the amazing features of Web 2 to Web 3. And there's 6 key ideas behind Leo. And it's short-form content, long-form content, communities, decentralized voting, tokenization, and immutable identities. So short-form content, you guys all know threads. We've got a threadcast going for all this. So it literally feels like Twitter when you use it. And long-form content, that's what's been on Hive for years now. And then communities have really taken shape on Hive for the last probably 3 years. So Leo has really kind of taken advantage of that. Decentralized voting is something we built recently. It's custom JSON based, and it basically just lets you do on-chain governance votes. So right now you can vote, it's one account, one vote. Later on it's going to be stake-weighted voting. And then we've got tokenization. Like I was saying, the Zuckerbergs of the world got very rich tokenizing attention. And Leo is doing very much the same thing, but taking all that value and flowing it back to the users. So that's really important to us. Immutable identities, that, and you know, you guys don't need to be told this, but the value of Hive is immutable accounts on chain. Nobody can take it from you. You own your keys. And obviously Leo takes advantage of that. So inflows. Like I said, you know, the Zuckerbergs of the world got very rich by bringing money to the table when it came to attention. So when you have users, they build content, they build a base of content, and you know, all the content has value, and it doesn't have value because of what the content actually is. And we were talking about this earlier, that you know, proof of brain is kind of an interesting concept. It really should be proof of attention, which is the more attention you get, the more value that content has. So if you go on Leo and you look at, there's a little view counter, and it tells you how much a piece of content generated in terms of ad revenue. So the idea there is we're actually monetizing attention. We're not just bringing attention in for no reason. And I think that's a big, you know, kind of key issue with Web3, is that Web2 has done a really good job of monetizing people, but Web3 has not. So we're all about tokens and tokenizing and selling the next token. But really what we should be doing is selling the attention. So the Hive Light Account Protocol, we built this probably about 3 years ago, but we've made a lot of iterations to it. So essentially, you can sign up in 30 seconds. You have all the features that you have as a full Hiver, but you don't hold your keys, and you use your X or your Google account to authenticate and log in. So the reason behind this is the average normal new user does not want keys. They don't want to know what your posting key is, what your active key is, what your memo key is. They don't want to know any of that. So they want to log in, start using the app, and not worry about anything. So the idea here is we get them signed in, we get them the ability to do whatever they want, and then from there, we can drip educate them to a full Hiver, which is to self-custody their own keys. So once you get over like $10 in your wallet, in your Hive wallet, the UI will start to really bother you to download your keys and take self-custody. So onboarding new Hivers. So like I said, there's a flow to this, and you basically sign up with X or Google, and then you get flowed in. You get a light account, but on the back end, it all thinks you're a regular Hiver. So, you know, nothing is different to you except for the fact that you don't have any keys. Growth. So you guys all know Eric, a Nomad Soul. He is killing it on the growth. So in July, we had 1,153 monthly active users. You can see we did 80,000 threads. So we've seen a lot of growth recently. And in a bear market, this is pretty extraordinary. Like almost every project is, you know, not just on Hive, but across the space. Every project is declining in users. But Leo's been growing. So it's been awesome to see. Obviously, you know, Eric's spearheading all of that. And then we've got the DHF proposal now for the past probably 3 weeks. So we've really ramped up the marketing. The whole idea behind that is to take what we're already doing and just scale it up. So what's next? You guys all know I'm infamous for the Sooniverse. I love to announce things and announce announcements. So we've got a lot coming. One of the biggest things that people are excited for is Evergreen Rewards, which is taking us beyond the 7-day payout window, where obviously we're all like beholden to this. You know, I post a piece of content, I get some upvotes, and after 7 days, there's no more rewards. The idea here is we take the ad impressions and the revenue that comes in continuously, and every month, the authors get a piece of that ad revenue, which is what X has started doing also. So the whole idea is, if a user creates, you know, 15 articles a month, they're creating a huge base of content. You've got people like Taskmaster, who I know is listening right now, and he's making, you know, 6 articles a day. Every month, he's bringing in a ton of ad impressions, and all that value previously on Facebook would just go to Zuckerberg, right? It just lines the pockets of a corporation. On Hive and with tokenization, we have the ability to redistribute that. So with the ads protocol, we're going to be able to go beyond the 7-day payout window, and every month those authors will get a paycheck. Leo Shorts. So using 3Speak's backend, we're basically building TikTok on Hive. So you'll be able to scroll the feed like any other feed, and you'll get 60-second or less videos, and then there's going to be native inline ads that will get split with the author, and then also Leo token holders. So like I said, the whole idea here is monetize attention and keep people coming back, keep them on site, and really look at data around, you know, how long are they spending on the app, you know, on various pages, on various pieces of content, and reward them for that. So I actually got this idea when we were talking to Dan one time, but so we have Leo.voter, and basically delegators can delegate Hive power into Leo, and we use that Hive power to reward content creators. So right now, the way it works is that Hive power comes in, and we use it to buy Leo and then send it to the delegators. But this idea actually builds liquidity for both Hive and for Leo, and a big value proposition for us is that, you know, we believe that bringing money in through the L2 is how you bring money to the layer 1. So by building this liquidity pool and actually paying delegators in liquidity tokens instead of just liquid Leo, you're actually building a lot of liquidity long term, which ultimately, imagine this. So you've got Leo being distributed, but then that just buys, it's a one-way street, right? But if you have Leo and Hive getting distributed as an LP token, you're building actual liquidity, and then when the ad revenue comes in, it's flowing through that liquidity pool, and you're ultimately driving layer 1 value. So small plug at the end here. So Leo has a witness. We're currently number 27, and a lot of our technology has been closed source, almost all of it so far. But one thing we're kind of moving towards is open sourcing everything, building out APIs, letting people use it. And I was talking to Jarvi when we were in Vegas about letting PeakD tap into threads and use the backend. So the whole idea here is we're going to start open sourcing things and letting other UIs tap into our backend. And then I left some time for Q&A. So thank you.
I guess there are some questions.
Some.
Who's first? We need a microphone. Microphone's coming. Brian, did you ever had a question that days? Microphone needs some attention.
Okay, there we go.
Here we go.
My dulcet tones again. I'm not a big fan of advertising.
Okay.
But I also am realistic. It doesn't disappear. It's not going to disappear next week.
Right.
When you were a Leo Finance and there was a lot of crypto content, I can see that advertising is sort of niche. As you get wider, do you think that this is manageable and scalable? You can still attract advertisers with a wider selection of content? Yeah,
good question. So, yeah, it's a lot of the ads right now, almost all of them are crypto based, right? And our content is still very, crypto heavy. We have had a few advertisers come in and do, like Amazon ads, affiliate ads. So there's a lot to play around with. And when you look at platforms like, X, I mean, they get plenty of advertisers. They did have an issue recently with advertisers, but I don't think it's an issue in terms of getting advertisers. They are a little scared when you say, crypto Web3. That scares them off a little bit. But in general, we haven't really had any issues. And the way I see it, we were talking about like PeakD and ECNC have, tons of users every day. I think around like 5,000 each is their monthly active users. And all that attention is not being monetized. So, that's just money that could be flowing. And like I was saying, we're a big believer in money coming to the L1 through the L2. So when you have a UI that has all this attention, it's like free money that you're leaving on the table that could be flowing into Hive, whether it's flowing into an L2 token like Leo or something else.
And you'd stand against censorship if an advertiser comes to you?
Yeah, if an advertiser wants to censor, we'll just say, hey, find another, there's a million of you out there. We'll get a different one. So, yeah. And that's the beauty of Hive, too, is that, in theory, let's say that a UI censors somebody, which has happened in the past. They're not censored on chain. They're just censored on that UI. I was actually talking to someone yesterday about that, where they asked, okay, so a UI can censor you. What if all the UIs decide to censor you? And I said, well, then you spin up your own UI. You fork Condenser, and then you have your own UI. So that's the beauty of Hive.
Hey, Carl. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, man.
Really glad you came.
Thank you.
Really excited about Threads. Dan and I, with the CTT podcast, obviously we use Threads quite extensively so far to like essentially reward our listeners.
Yeah.
People comment, you get rewarded for making intelligent, interesting comments. Dan and I can sit there in between the breaks or while one or the other is speaking on the podcast, and we can upvote the listeners to the show, and it's just a fantastic thing. So it makes Hive one of the only places where you get paid to listen instead of the other way around. So that's fantastic. Congratulations. I wanted to ask, regards to Threads, you're talking about open sourcing it. How do you think that looks? Would a 3Speak be able to implement it, for example?
Yeah.
What would it look like for us to do that?
Yeah, so I think in the initial stage, it will be an API that you tap into, and you say, okay, I want to start, I want my UI to read threads and show them, and then allow people to write to threads also. So I think the initial stage is going to be an API. You'll just connect to that API, and then you'll be able to use threads. And then obviously, you know, we eat the infrastructure cost of just the back end that handles it.
And still be able to reward InLeo as well?
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, that's a big thing, like with the rebrand too, is moving away from just finance and saying, you know, the only way you can earn Leo, which in the past was to write about crypto and finance, you know, now you can post threads. You know, a lot of people just, you know, post a picture of their lunch and they earn, you know, 0.01 Leo. So yeah, the whole idea is to spread it out, and now it's the everything app, and every piece of content can get rewarded in Leo. So when you tap into the back end, you'll also get rewarded in Leo in terms of like when users post threads. And then progressing from that, so you've got the API, right? And then the idea is long term, actually open sourcing, you know, more of the back end infrastructure so that people can run nodes. So, you know, right now, Threads is very small. You don't have that many people using it. I think we're doing about 100,000 threads a month. So, you know, at some point in the future, we're going to need multiple nodes. We're going to need a lot more infrastructure. And, you know, having only one node provider, you know, which is us, is not going to work. So the idea is API first, and then build the infrastructure where you could run your own node, and then actually earn Leo for running the node too.
Thank you. I want to let someone else speak if someone else wants to ask a question. If not, I've got one more quick question. Quickly, you guys just recently went from kind of a fixed static site to a live update.
Yeah.
Which is incredible, by the way.
Yeah.
It's very impressive. I think you got 1,600 comments on one of your recent...
Yeah, we had an influencer that we brought in who does a lot of X spaces, and he did 1,600 threads on his Threadcast for the first one, and you know, Eric was talking to him and he was blown away by it. And I think his record for X spaces, like in terms of attendance, was 50 users. And then in this one where Leo promoted it, he got 200. So he was like taking screenshots and sharing it around, and he's like, I made it to 200. So that's really the vision with influencers, is get them to use these Threadcasts. And like you said, the new Threadcast mode is real-time threads. So what that really looks like is like a Twitch chat. It's like a twitch.tv, you know, live chat room. So I'm really excited about that. Like 1,600 comments in one, I think, how long? It was like 2 hours, I think his spaces was, which is insane. I mean, insane.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Eric.
Anyone else? I helped with the presentation, but I didn't get it quite clear. So how does inflows in a layer 2 help the layer 1?
Yeah, so that's a big thing, right? Like people think, and you look, even if you look outside of Hive, you look at Ethereum and layer 2s over there, a lot of people think that they extract value from the layer 1. They distract, essentially that they distract people, and you have all these different tokens that nobody really cares about. But when you have an L2, in theory, and we talked about this, that an L2 can't outgrow the layer 1. Because when you're bringing value into the layer 2, it ultimately is ending up as layer 1 value. So let's say that Leo hits $1 billion market cap. Hive, like the current market cap of Hive is 110 million. If Leo's at $1 billion market cap, Hive has to be over $1 billion. And the reason for that is because Leo is inextricably linked to Hive in terms of, not just in terms of technology, but in terms of liquidity and the pools. So ultimately, you know, if you look at it this way, like if, you know, $15,000 in ad revenue is coming in every month, that ultimately is flowing through Hive as much as it is through Leo. So the layer 1 is absorbing all the value of the layer 2, which I think is a huge value proposition for Hive. I've long been a believer that L2s are what's going to take Hive to the next level.
One more question.
Will ads be optional? Can I pay to not be shown ads?
Yeah, so good question. So I have thought about, currently everyone sees ads, and there's no paid option on Leo. But I have thought about doing kind of what Elon's doing at X, where if you're a blue check subscriber, you get less ads. You don't get no ads, but you get less. So that is something I've considered doing. I don't think it would ever be like a no ad option, just because, like I said, I mean the value proposition is monetizing attention, and when you have a rewards pool, and you know we've got the Hive rewards pool and the Leo rewards pool, ultimately that that money is rewarding attention. It's not rewarding quality content. Like, if you really think about it, like, you could write a 15,000 word blog post and you get $50 in rewards for it, but the actual value of that is in the number of ad impressions you get. Otherwise, there's no real value. So I don't ever think it'll be no ads, but I do think there could be a paid option for less ads.
Thank you.
Any more?
Hey, so I love the idea of the influencer and this idea of people being able to join really fast and not even quite realize they're maybe on Hive. I'm kind of interested in how successful that has been. How many people in general have joined and actually decided to get their keys and do that? I'm kind of just curious how successful it's been so far.
Yeah, good question. So in the last month, I think we did about 450 light account signups. I don't, off the top of my head, know how many of them have taken their keys. The thing about these light accounts is that most people that want them don't care for their keys. So if you go to Leo's UI, you can actually sign up and get the keys right away. It's just, it says create a Hive account. It said it on one of the slides. But it says create a Hive account, and then you get, normal full self-custody. But most of the people that are opting for these, X or Google login options, they just want to log in, they create a couple threads, they might leave for a few days, come back, make some more threads. They're very, the light name really applies to them. When we were at the Breathe conference in Vegas, we did 300 signups just at the conference. So it's working pretty well so far. Yeah, I'm excited because this is kind of a new, we've been building it for a while. We originally had MetaMask signups, and then we switched it to X and Google recently. So I'm excited to see what kind of data we can show once we start really offboarding them. So we're calling it offboarding to get them from a light account to a full account. I think the retention rate is going to be pretty high. We're going to offer them a little bit of Leo, like $5, $10 worth of Leo, to actually take self-custody of their keys. And like I said, when the UI reads when the user has more than $10 in their wallet, and it starts to really bug them to take full self-custody.
Great.
Okay, I think we will go further because there were probably so many questions to Leo. One last one from me. A front end running as an app like X is doing, do you have this in plans?
Like a native app?
Yeah.
So we actually acquired, the name is escaping me. There was a popular app on Hive a few years ago. We actually acquired their code base. And we're in the process, we're calling it Leo Merge, of merging our current code base with their app code. So the native app, I love to give Sooniverse timelines, but I give it a few months, and then we'll have the native app out.
Thanks for this.